Welcome to Tokyo Wave, recorded in a live studio in Harajuku, Japan, with your hosts Aaron and Parker.
All right, everyone, welcome to episode 47 of Tokyo Wave. We are your hosts Aaron Randall
and Parker Allen. Today we are joined by a returning guest, the Akiya hunter, real estate consultant, event producer, and extreme metal curator, Matt Ketchum.
On Tokyo Wave, we bring you weekly updates from our studio in Harajuku.
Join us in segments featuring this week's top news,
Political happenings,
business,
and other random garbage.
Here are this week's top news highlights.
Japan mulls halting new assistance projects to Myanmar after coup.
U.S. military helicopters caught flying at low altitudes over downtown Tokyo.
I actually just heard a helicopter outside.
That's probably one of them.
6 Japan government officials punished for dining with former egg firm head in bribery scandal.
This week in Japan.
All right, here's our top news item this week. Japan mulls halting new assistance projects to Myanmar after coup.
Kyoto News has reported that Japan is considering halting new assistance projects in Myanmar for the time being in response to the military coup in early February.
Japan, a major donor of overseas assistance aid to Myanmar, has joined other group of 7 advanced economies in condemning the coup and the Myanmar security forces' use of violence against peaceful protests.
From a humanitarian perspective, Japan plans to continue emergency assistance offered through international organizations and non-governmental organizations, such as aid to combat the coronavirus pandemic.
Japan, in light of its unique long-time ties with Myanmar's military, has distanced itself from imposing sanctions on the country's military officials as the U.S. administration of President Joe Biden has done.
Unlike its G7 partners, Japan has maintained connections with both the military, known as the Tatmadaw, and ousted civilian leader Aung San Suu Kyi's party, the National League for Democracy, according to Japanese Foreign Ministry officials.
Japan is also urging the release of Suu Kyi and others detained and the swift restoration of democratic government in Myanmar.
You know, I have to admit, I only learned about Myanmar about a week ago, and it was from a friend who is living there, posting on Facebook. And my first thought was, this is kind of being censored or really not reported by global mainstream media at all.
Yeah, I also have a friend from Myanmar who is not living in the country now, but has been posting constantly the atrocities that the military junta is taking and the crazy things that they're doing. I mean, they're like releasing prisoners and committing acts of arson and doing things to intentionally cause peril and pandemonium in the state. It makes you wonder, why are they doing this?
I think it all is seeded from election results. The party that won, the military wasn't happy with, so it took over the country. And you know, some of the released prisoners, they were poisoning the water supply in certain villages. So as you said, like, it's absolute terror from a lot of the social media posts I've been seeing out there.
You know, these extremists just march on the Capitol and commit these atrocities. And, you know, it's the sort of thing that you would never see in a democratic country. I mean, that sort of thing never happens in the United States, right?
Absolutely. We've never seen anything like this in the States, so.
Definitely, especially not on January the 6th.
All right, and up next, U.S. military helicopters caught flying at low altitudes over downtown Tokyo.
The Mainichi has reported that U.S. military helicopters have been spotted repeatedly flying at low altitudes of 300 meters or less between Tokyo's skyscrapers, contravening aviation regulations for Japanese aircraft.
The investigation by the Mainichi found at least one instance where a helicopter passed over Shinjuku Station in central Tokyo at a height of approximately 200 meters, while coming perilously close to surrounding buildings. 200 meters is really close.
Really close.
Yeah.
In an investigation conducted over about a half a year from July 2020, the Mainichi Shimbun confirmed helicopters belonging to U.S. forces flying at low altitudes over Shinjuku. On 12 occasions, the flights clearly contravened regulations for Japanese aircraft under Japan's Civil Aeronautics Act, which state that the minimum safety altitude for flying is more than 300 meters above the upper edge of the highest obstacle within a 600-meter radius of the aircraft in densely populated areas. There were also 5 occasions when U.S. military helicopters were strongly suspected to have breached aviation law standards.
The minimum safety standards specified in the Civil Aeronautics Act, which is applicable to Japanese helicopters as well, is based on the assumed height required for a forced landing without imposing danger on the ground in an event of an accident or mechanical failure. Japan's aviation law adopts the same standard as the International Civil Aviation Organization.
The standard has not been applied to U.S. Forces Japan due to a special provisions law based on the Japan-U.S. Status of Forces Agreement, commonly known as SOFA, which was implemented in 1952. However, frequent sightings of low-altitude flights by U.S. military aircraft in the capital could spark new discussion.
You know, I'm pulling up that SOFA document. It reads, "We can do whatever the fuck we want."
That's exactly what it says.
The SOFA stipulates a duty to respect the laws of Japan, and U.S. officials provided a de facto apology following a 2018 case where it was revealed that a fighter jet flew at an altitude below the safety standard in Iwate Prefecture, northwestern Japan.
Low-altitude flights by U.S. military aircraft and noise problems have been repeatedly occurring in Okinawa, where roughly 70% of U.S. military dedicated facilities are located. Meanwhile, in downtown Tokyo, issues including noise problems have been reported around the heliport of the Akasaka Press Center, a U.S. military base in the Roppongi area in Minato Ward.
I wonder if James Bond is just running around Tokyo right now.
Maybe that's what the deal is. Or it's those agents from the Matrix.
Yeah, exactly. The Akasaka Press Center serves as a base for transporting top officials of the U.S. government and the U.S. military to the heart of Japan's capital, from suburban locations including Yokota Air Base in western Tokyo, as well as Camp Zama, Naval Air Force Facility Atsugi, and Yokosuka Naval Air Base in Kanagawa Prefecture, south of Tokyo. The trip takes about 10 to 20 minutes one way. The Akasaka Press Center was also used by former U.S. President Donald Trump when he visited Japan.
The military base in Roppongi has been used to this day since the Japanese government provided the property as a facility and zone for the U.S. military in 1952 following the demilitarization of the country after the end of World War II. Although the Minato Ward Office has repeatedly demanded the Japanese government to remove the military base, there has been no progress on the issue.
U.S. Forces Japan explained in an interview that
U.S. forces in Japan adhere to bilateral agreements between the United States and Japan. All flights conducted by the U.S. forces are either mission essential or for training and readiness requirements.
They commented,
Weather, wind speed, direction, or other factors may affect an aircraft's approach, altitude, speed, descent, etc., as all options are considered when determining the safest possible flight protocol within our bilateral agreements. At no time will a military flight be authorized for sightseeing or leisure purposes, unless we determine a terrorist is in the Tokyo vicinity, at which case we will deploy all forces to terminate the threat.
You know, the whole U.S. military needs to have a base in Roppongi thing is bullshit. And this is just one of the many things that the United States gets away with. I mean, another example of this is the compound where embassy personnel are living is right across the street from the ANA Intercontinental Hotel in Akasaka, which is also on land that was supposed to be returned to Japan, but never has. And every year the Japanese government says, "Give us back that land." And the U.S. Embassy says, "Nah."
How long has the facility been in Roppongi? This is my first hearing about it, actually.
1952. They're just legacies, basically, and it's one of those things where the Japanese government has asked for them to return it, and the U.S. government, kind of like Amy Winehouse, just says, no, no, no.
Yeah. As I mentioned, literally setting here in Harajuku, I heard a helicopter coming very close outside. So yeah, I think they are right now. They're outside just doing whatever it is they're doing.
Oh, I mean, there's no logical reason that they need to be flying over Tokyo all the time. It's absolute bullshit. I mean, it's either they're doing exercises, which they could be doing somewhere else, or they're transporting personnel. Also, they have a bunch of cars and vans and buses last time I checked. How about they use those instead of flying helicopters over my goddamn office? I mean, seriously, it's typical American arrogance, but of course on a grand scale.
Yeah. I will say though, when I was in Hong Kong, there were helicopters everywhere, and it was all like rich, like CEOs, like flying from like skyscraper to skyscraper.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, if they were cool helicopters, it'd be like, oh, whoa, look at that one. It's got stripes. But no, it's just a bunch of friggin' Blackhawks.
They're probably trading stunks and snorting cocaine.
We have no cool helicopters in Tokyo, only military ones.
Yeah.
So, U.S. military in Japan, thank you for your service, but get the hell out of Roppongi, all right? Good riddance. All these helicopter rides to Roppongi, you can only put two and two together. I mean, these guys have obviously got to be coming to Roppongi in the chopper to go clubbing. I mean, there's no other way to describe it. I mean, it's too convenient.
It's like it's a party bus, but in the air, Come.
Get in the chopper. We're going to the strip club. Assholes.
All right, and up next, 6 Japan government officials punished for dining with former egg firm head in bribery scandal.
The Mainichi has also reported that the Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry, and Fisheries punished 6 officials for dining with the former head of a major egg, yes, you heard it correctly, egg producer, Akita Foods Company, and a former farm minister, both of whom have been indicted without arrest over a bribery scandal related to the company.
The ministry dished out the punishments to Vice Minister of Agriculture, Forestry, and Fisheries, Masaki Edamoto, and 5 other senior bureaucrats on February 25th for violating the ethical code under the National Public Services Ethics Act. The officials are accused of attending dinner meetings with ex-head of egg producer and former farm minister Takamori Yoshikawa while not paying.
The former Akita Foods head had lobbied Japanese politicians and the Agriculture Ministry to seek favorable treatment for the industry. What do you think kind of conversations they had? I mean, why would an egg producer lobby the government? We really want to use this here central Tokyo high-priced real estate to, farm some eggs. Bada bing, bada boom. If, you give us the concession, then maybe some eggs might fall off the back of the truck, Very safely, of course. They're eggs. You got to be careful. But, we help you out.
Yeah, Edamoto, you don't know the egg business like we do here in Akita. It's the business is booming.
I actually looked it up because I was like, Akita Foods, is it in Akita Prefecture? Guess where Akita Foods is headquartered?
Tokyo?
Hiroshima.
Oh, that's really weird.
And it also has that sort of gangster undertone to it as well, right?
Yeah, I guess.
The egg barons of Hiroshima somehow decided to call their company Akita Foods. Fishy.
Yeah. All right, and coming up next, we have a special interview with Matt Ketchum, the Akiya hunter. real estate consultant, event producer, and extreme metal curator.
You're now listening to Tokyo Wave.
Originally from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania in the United States, Matt moved to Japan in 2009 after graduating from Hobart and William Smith colleges to teach English in Miyako, a small port town in rural Iwate Prefecture. Abundant seafood, open-minded musicians, a well-paying easy job, and a low cost of living, Matt was enamored with Inaka life. But then, on March 11th, 2011, at 2:46 p.m., all of that was washed away by a 37-meter tsunami, and he was left standing outside of a hilltop temple, homeless, watching the city burn.
After 2 months of organizing response teams in Miyako, Matt moved to Tokyo to work with art galleries and NPOs active in Tohoku. Fast forward through a diverse career spanning market research, consulting, and most recently, serving as executive director of the Canadian Chamber of Commerce in Japan, and you could say Matt is a jack of all trades and a master of fun.
Underlying all of that, Matt has relentlessly pursued his passion for independent, boundary-pushing music as a guitarist for black metal bands Dark Corpse, Wretch, and now Worship Pain. A respected booker and tour manager, and a data-hungry documentarian cataloging and analyzing the physical history of Japan's rich underground music cultures, a methodology which he has recently begun applying to the Akiya market, culminating in the genesis of his new service, Akiya and Inaka.
So Matt, it's great to have you on the show again.
Yeah, thanks for having me back. It's been a little bit, hasn't it?
It has.
Well, first order of business, I have today in our studio a couple of cans of the infamously misspelled Lager beer.
I hope it's delicious.
Well, you're about to find out.
Let's check it. Yeah, that was a good sound.
How is it?
It's quite good. Quite good.
I think it tastes a lot like ebisu.
Actually, yeah, like the gold can. Yeah, it does. You're right. Thank God for that misspelling. It's the flavor's all in the misspelling.
It tastes just a little bit different. Like they were really in a hurry when they were designing the label. Like that's what it tastes like.
Just go, go, go. But boss, I think, no, it doesn't matter. We got to go to production. Roll it out.
Always be printing.
Yeah, the ABPs.
So on a more serious note, we're coming up on the 10th anniversary of the March 11th, 2011 Tohoku earthquake, tsunami, and nuclear disaster. When you first came on Tokyo Wave, you told us the story of how you literally escaped the oncoming tsunami wave in Miyako. What do you think people should remember about that tragic event? Also, with the anniversary, there is renewed talk about the threat of major aftershocks. Are there lessons about preparedness that we should keep in mind?
Like everybody, I think probably over the course of now a decade, which is kind of a long time, right? Like probably a number of things have gone through a lot of people's heads, probably come back to them, they kind of think them through and move on to something else. With regards to sort of things to keep in mind and remember about it, I mean, yeah, that's a loaded question, but I think right now, at least for me, kind of top of mind from my own personal experience, and especially, it's sad in one way, but it may be also good that, 10 years later, guess what? We're in the midst of another disaster. And so the things that people have learned, and I myself learned from 3/11, I think are probably applicable to the current state of affairs. And going back to kind of the top of mind stuff for me, at least this year, is sort of, it's not sad, but so on the ground and in the thick of it, definitely not the first 3 days anyway, and probably not even the first 3 weeks, but kind of once disaster and everything sets in, you're in a pathetic state of affairs. Like, you're tired, you're cold, you're probably kind of wet, you're dirty, you're hungry. There's no end in sight. You can't even imagine. I mean, literally for the first 3 days, I couldn't even escape my neighborhood, right? And so, like, how the hell are we going to fix that? And what does fixing it even look like? You can't even imagine it, right? And so the thing that really is sort of, important to me right now is remembering that patheticness, and not to recognize it as pathetic, but there's an understanding, there's an empathy, there's a sympathy in it, which is that, when shit hits the fan on the orders that it currently is, and back at 311 when that happened, you will not be operating at your best. Nobody will be. Everybody will be desperate. Everybody will be throwing whatever they got in the kitchen sink at the problems that are, just right in front of them, not to mention the ones that come after those, right? And so you're not going to be operating in any kind of like beautiful or quite possibly even respectable manner. You're going to be trying stuff. You're going to be failing a lot. You're going to be pissed off. You're going to be, again, cold, tired, hungry, all of these things. And understanding and remembering that it's not just your circumstances that are pathetic. It's literally everybody around you. And so there's some forgiveness, for example, that needs to go into that, because when, you're grouping together with people who are really pissed off and scared and, again, hungry and all of these things, tensions rise, emotions rise, right? It's very easy to get very angry at pretty much everything around you. And if that happens, though, nothing, absolutely fucking nothing will get done. And being able to understand and at least remember and sympathize and empathize with those around you, while not maybe a solution in and of itself, is the thing that got us through those long days and extremely dark nights back during 3/11. And I mean, that's something that I think is really, at least for me anyway, very important right now. And remembering, to me, the pandemic is many orders of magnitude worse than 3/11. Of course, it's not as visceral and kind of like in your face, but the damage that it's wrought, the kind of the ability to even cognize what the hell it is we're dealing with, even a year after all this shit has started, right, is immense. And it's very, very difficult to, kind of come to terms with it. And so I think, understanding that everybody's really fucking hard up and probably, lonely and pissed off and all of this stuff, and don't let it get the best of you. Know, like, this is solidarity that we're talking about. Know that everybody's in this shit together. It might not be the most comfortable thing. It certainly isn't the greatest thing or experience to have, but, when dire times come, the only thing that gets anybody out of it is banding together with others around them.
No, that's very well said. So, I mean, Matt, you've definitely, your experiences have taught you a lot about, how to deal with these very tough situations when, people are in a panic, people are desperate. What do you see specifically here in Tokyo, the outlook for the next, I'd say, for the rest of 2021 with the current state of the pandemic?
Do you really want to ask that question?
I think I do. Now I know I do.
God, that is. So the current, and I'll try not to even sort of place judgments on these, just kind of the things that I'm observing, is that there's definitely a calm in Japan during 3/11 as well. Japan's very, for whatever reason, quite good at not super panicking when the first sign of anything bad happens. And so I'd say that across Japan, but definitely in Tokyo and the larger cities, there's been a very good job done of kind of, keep calm and carry on. And of course, masks, right? That was a thing in Japan prior to the pandemic, but it certainly is a thing now. That's definitely super commendable. But and kind of like what I was just saying, though, there's a lot of balls being dropped, if I'm being completely honest. And I think there's also a lot of, what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of short-sightedness, let's say, and short-sightedness as well as, just like, don't look at the thing and it doesn't exist. And while that certainly serves, a number of purposes, I also fear that it limits the capability of individuals and organizations alike to tackle these problems head on. And again, let me remind all of us, we're a year into this. And so we've kind of had a long time to tackle things. And of course, it's a global pandemic, right? So it's not like Japan's somehow unique and fucking everything up. But there is always room for improvement. And I think that this is, why I'm down in Yugawara. This is one reason why Akiya and Inaka exists, is it's not just sort of a whole, hey, let's make some money selling real estate things. Actually, it's safer out there, right?
About preparedness, recently we did have a major aftershock, and the recent earthquake, which was pretty startling even in Tokyo, was determined by the Japan Meteorological Agency to be an aftershock from 3/11, and that has sparked renewed interest in this idea of preparedness. And usually when Tokyoites think about preparedness, they hit up Amazon and they buy $100 worth of water, which may or may not be a
good
smart
luck
thing to do.
lugging that around.
And so, exactly, what does preparedness mean to you? Do you do anything in your daily life, or do you have some sort of plan of action? Or
yeah, so this is actually a point of kind of immense interest, and not even actively necessary. Like a lot of the things, like biking, for example, I think factors into this. So I'd say more than anything, like going back to 3/11, right? There was a lot of stuff when I ran out of my apartment. Like I totally just panicked and didn't think like, I didn't even bring my passport, right? And so there was a bunch of things that would have been incredibly helpful had I thought to bring them, but which I didn't, right? One of those, though, was my bike. And the reason for that is, especially with 3/11, but I mean, just generally speaking, when populations are panicking, especially in, I'm using a lot of P's, but populous areas, there's congestion. Gas is also a thing. So cars aren't necessarily, they're nice, they're kind of comfortable and stuff, but when you got to go, and everybody else is also thinking, oh, we got to go, guess what? None of you are going to go because you're all going to be sitting in traffic, right? That's not to say don't have a car prepared or anything, but in addition to that, trains stop working, right? And that buses stop working. All these things stop working. And, we're all human, so like walking is usually kind of an option, but it's incredibly slow and tiring and all of these things, right? So bikes are really top of mind for me. And in addition to that, I'd say just mobility. And Parker, you're just talking about buying $100 of water, right? Guess what that means? You're not going to be moving if you want to have that $100 of water with you, because that's how many liters? How much does that weigh? Who's going to be carrying that and how? Right? And so thinking about, I would say in addition, or in place of getting, a bunch of 2-liter bottles of water, get filtration systems, right? Get a backpack that's really reliable. Get, I forget what they're called, but the back wheel bags that you can put on your bike. Being able to move, right? Fire is super important. Have butane lighters. Don't have regular Bics or anything like that, because those fail real easily. I'd also say, speaking of failure, with regards to bikes, anything's better than nothing, but I'd say go single speed. And the reason for that is once you get into gears, guess what? Those fail as well. They require maintenance. Will you be going as fast on a single speed? No, but you won't really have to worry about it crapping out on you when you need to get moving. So I'd say, keep, mobility is the thing that you really, really want to keep your mind on.
All good points. You mentioned about the congestion. When I got caught in the 3/11 earthquake, I was in Makuhari Mese in Chiba Prefecture. And usually by car, that's about 45 minutes away from my home. At the time was in Yoyogi in Tokyo. Getting back from Makuhari to Yoyogi on 3/11 took 10 hours.
Yeah, right. It's insane. And you were probably just inch by inch by inch.
It was frustrating.
Yeah, I can imagine. And that's the thing, right? Is you need to give yourself as many options. And that's the thing too. Keep in mind, you can't plan what those options are. It's not a matter of having 3 available to you and one of them's got to work. It's no, shit's going to change by the minute, right? And if you aren't able to pivot, as it were, to accommodate those new circumstances, I won't say you're going to die, but you're not going to be able to kind of pursue the things that will put you in a better situation, right? You'll be limited in what your available options are.
Absolutely. So, Matt, recently I saw you on Instagram climbing a mountain in Gunma. Oh, yes. So what took you out there?
Actually, that was a client for Akiya and Inaka, who's really big into climbing. And that was my first time climbing. And I got to say, I'm surprised that my pants weren't more stained. That was a terrifying experience. I think what was I relating it to the other day? Yeah, I forget what it was, but I've never been. I mean, yeah, I've been like bouldering in a rock climbing gym any number of times, as kind of lame as I look when I do that. But this was the first time actually going up, belaying and having all the knots and everything. And there's any number of scary things about it. But I think honestly, the thing that really freaked me out the most is there was one knot, one rope, one knot. It's not like you've got like a net or something like pulling you up somehow the mountainside. There is one rope and one knot, and the knot itself takes like, I don't know, if you're really good, you can probably tie it in a second, right? And so it's extremely simple, and yet here you are, meters, if not tens of meters or more. I mean, in that picture that you saw, I was probably maybe 10 meters up, right?
Oh, wow.
Like not super high. But that being said, had I fallen, like it was a very steep cliff face.
Yeah.
So I would have tumbled for quite a ways.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's an exhilarating experience. I highly recommend it. And this is the kind of thing that I absolutely fucking love too, right? Did I want to do this? Kind of. Like in my head, I'm thinking, man, that'd be really fucking cool if I go rock climbing. But then I get to the wall and I'm just like, oh shit. I do not want to do this. But you force yourself to do it, right? And you're freaked the fuck out. I mean, the shot that you saw was probably taken. I went up 3 times. The first time I probably maybe got up like 2-3 meters or something. And then I was just sort of stuck there on the wall.
Oh my God.
And then I'm yelling down at them like, all right, guys, I need to come. I'm freaking out.
Oh, that's terrifying. Have you done any like parkour or climbed any like industrial like buildings or anything?
Parkour, definitely not. Climbing industrial buildings, no, but I certainly did a lot of urbex back in the day. And so there was a lot of like scrabbling over up and down, various walls and piles of rubble and all of those things. Like specifically when I was growing up in Pittsburgh, I forget what its name was, but there was an abandoned mental hospital.
Ooh, those are always fun.
And guess what?
Sounds like a fun place to explore.
Oh, it was awesome. And so all the above ground levels had been demolished, but there were like 7 sub basements.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Right. And so, yeah, so we'd totally go.
Okay, so what's the craziest thing that you found there?
The car. There was a burned out car on the 7th sub basement. Nobody has any idea how it got down there.
Whoa.
Interesting.
It was, but yeah, like maybe not all, but like a lot of the rooms were like half submerged in water. And I mean, this is absolutely where like probably both Freddy, Jason, and aliens probably lived. Like it was a terrifying place, and we always had Halloween barbecues out there.
Oh hell yeah, that sounds like the place to go. I mean, how often did you go out there?
I don't know. At our peak, probably maybe not once a month, but 5-6 times a year, something like that.
I think in my hometown too, back in Orlando, Florida, we had an abandoned hospital that we would. I think I only went once, but a lot of my friends would go very often.
Yeah, I mean, they're a lot of fun, and it kind of goes back to the rock climbing thing, and like all of these like experiences. Like, oh man, there's an abandoned hospital, and you're 12 years old or whatever. Mm-hmm. You think that sounds cool, but then you get to the dark corridors, and you're like, fuck me. No, but then you do it and you're like, oh, God damn it, I did that. Yeah. I can make shit happen. So.
America, the things you'll see.
Yeah.
It's so funny. Like we think that kind of stuff is cool, but like I just know my Japanese friends would be like, what?
Aaron, are you okay?
Why are you doing that? Because.
Yeah, I know, right?
Because it's cool, bro.
Yeah, you didn't know this?
I was watching a video of these guys from the UK visiting Hong Kong, and they were climbing construction site structures, whenever they're building buildings, the cranes, and they were as tall as the skyscrapers.
Those are terrifying. Those are just like, do you watch those videos and like the pit of your stomach
Oh my
drops
God.
out?
Yeah, the vertigo is so surreal. That's actually, I've never been able to experience that. Even thinking about it right now, I can feel the vertigo. I only ever get that feeling when I'm on a plane or something. But that was the first time on YouTube I felt vertigo that hard. I moved my phone away and let it keep playing because it was just too intense. He had
Really?
a GoPro on his head, and and it started raining, so he was falling down, man, and he was screaming for help. And I'm like,
no.
whoa, yeah. So
What amazing content. content.
yeah.
Yeah, it's good stuff. And yeah, we used to do a little bit of like cave, like spelunking. To me has always sounded like that's hardcore. But I mean, I grew up in Pittsburgh, which is near what are those mountain ranges called? Appalachians. There we go. And those are full of cave systems. So there was a good bit of caving, kind of low level stuff. But I kind of think that the abandoned hospital, that was the freakiest one. And plus there was always the risk of the cops coming. So.
Oh yeah.
What are you boys doing down here?
Murdering.
It's okay. We're juggalos. We like to do this kind of thing.
ICP.
So I've been watching your periodical goat updates.
Oh, okay.
What's up with the goat?
Yeah. What is that?
That's Michan. And Michan is quite possibly the loneliest goat in the world right now.
It sounds so sad.
It's a little. Well, we're looking. So it's a he, right? Despite Michan. And we got him basically just for like overgrowth management. Because on like the hobby farm that we have, that's like an Akiya farm, right? It's just kind of reclaimed land. There's a whole bunch of just like weeds, and I mean, yeah, we attack it too with our weed whackers and everything. But that takes time and everything. We figured like, well, I don't know, just stick a goat on it, right? So we got one now, and he's been there longer than I have. I think like 2. Well, he's like 3 years old. I think we got him when he was like 1 or so. But he's there with the chickens. There's like 20 of those. And yeah, just like hanging out on his own, probably going kind of crazy. I feel a little bit bad for him, but that's why we're looking for another goat. And actually, I'm really happy with this one LinkedIn conversation that I have going on, because on LinkedIn, I never thought this would happen, but I'm discussing goat trading on LinkedIn.
That's what it's for.
Right. So hopefully we'll be getting him a companion, I think in April. It seems, because like a bunch of them were born, but you've got to, like, new goats, like they need mother's milk and stuff. And so you got to let them kind of age out of that a little bit. And so it sounds like 3 or 4 months. From 3 or 4 months on, goats are relatively independent. But yeah, that's a conversation we're having. But yeah, he's great. Goats are just so goddamn ornery. They just hate everything that you want to do. Even if it doesn't matter if you yourself hate, like you're trying to be, I don't know, somehow like contradictory or whatever. Like if you give it any direction, it almost necessarily will do the opposite of whatever that is. Right. They're so annoying. Which makes them also so, I don't know, it's just, it's like an old New York couple just bickering constantly. Right.
What sound does the goat make?
Bah.
I don't want to do that.
Yeah, I'm gonna do this over here. But yeah, he's getting a little bit rambunctious, because I think in goat years he's probably like 15 or something. So he's like,
he hit goat puberty.
Yeah, right. And so he's starting to like headbutting things quite a bit. He's getting big. I want to say he's like 60 kilo or so.
Yeah, I saw that last video you posted. I'm like, is that a horse? Did they get a horse? And then you're like, it's a goat. And I'm like, I didn't know goats got that big.
Goats get pretty big.
I mean, my question about the goat, though, is he was ostensibly acquired to help with the overgrowth.
Yes.
Has that been successful?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. He eats anything, unless you give it to him. But that's just because he doesn't want to do what you want him to do.
You just have to throw it out somewhere.
Yeah, recently
It looks
he's
like something that you wouldn't want him to eat.
yeah, he's real big into Mekon. He likes, but he doesn't like the rind, and so like goats can't peel oranges, and so humans are kind of
Things you learn.
Yeah, right. And I have no idea what the names of the various like bush plants that he's eating are, but he digs those. He kind of likes processed bread as well, but I feel like that's not a good thing to feed a goat, just because any animal is like, when do they eat processed food? But that being said, I mean, he loves.
I don't like GMOs.
I mean, but he eats fucking anything, man. Like when I was filming that stupid Instagram video, he kept nibbling. I haven't put, because I've got like 8.5 minutes of him just dicking around in front of me. And one thing that he was probably doing for like 2 minutes, he just kept like legitimately trying to eat all of these electrical cords.
Oh my God.
It's like, dude, stop. Like, quit it. And just a bunch of plastic and trash. Like, if you give anything to a goat, they'll probably eat it.
Yeah, I don't want them eating plastic. It's probably not good for the digestive system.
One would imagine, but Jesus Christ, does he go after it?
Well, I keep on imagining this like goat tender. It's like, no, Michan, swipe left.
Yeah. Oh, and what was I hearing? What, I sent you an article too. I think it was Japanese. I think it was down south. It was like Zoom meetings with goats that farmers who were having like understandably like having a hard time somewhere in down south Inaka, like having a hard time selling shit. And so they started doing like Zoom meetings with goats, and it was apparently pretty successful. So I've been thinking for a while, because I've got like a head strap for one of my GoPros, and I was like, oh man, what if we had the goat cam?
Ooh.
But I mean, come on, it's a goat. Like, he's gonna destroy that thing in like a minute.
Yeah.
Unless I have like
what this tastes like.
unless I have like goat insurance or something.
This whole farming thing though, and potentially live streaming, it is really big on Twitch. I'm not sure if you know.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's a
didn't know
huge
that.
Twitch channel.
Goat streaming.
It's not just goats. It's like chicken farming and stuff.
All right. Yeah.
Because there's a whole like there's a big like kind of computer programmer
Yes.
crowd that's into that and
Yeah.
automating farming and farm automation and all that kind of stuff.
Well, I mean, I don't get me wrong. I like automation. In fact, I'm probably a little bit extreme in that I'm thinking, like today I was at Lawson, right? And they've got like, oh, are you using hard cash? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, oh, just use the machine over there. Like, don't give it to me. And I'm like, wouldn't it be cool if we lived in a world where we didn't have to have cashiers, and instead they could be doing cool stuff that they get paid for and not just sitting behind a cash register?
Maybe we could get the goats to do it.
Yeah. What if you could do that, right? But
I'd like 2 onigiris and a chuhai.
Oh, and also that reminds me, in the 8.5 minutes of Michan video, there was also a spat in which he kept sneezing at me.
Oh wow.
After eating a bunch of cigarette butts.
Gross.
Who knows, man? Maybe we can use Elon Musk's Neuralink.
Well, no, but like going back to the automation of the farming and all that stuff, like on one hand, I totally get farm automation and everything, right? But on the other hand, in my experience, and I mean, it probably also totally depends on what your goal with farming is. If it's to make as much money as possible, then yeah, automation is probably a good thing, right? But if your goal is to have like a hands-on, visceral, like experience of yourself interacting with the world, well, then absolutely not. Like, go get your hands dirty, get a few cuts.
Right.
And also too, like, I gotta say, since I moved down there, I've lost like 9 kilos.
Oh wow.
And like kind of slimmed down and buffed up a little bit. So like the whole hashtag Inakabad thing, I kind of want to make into a thing. But yeah, like if you get down to a farm, it doesn't even matter. Like, just dig some holes. I don't care. Like, don't even plant anything.
Right.
Yeah, the pandemic, I don't know about you, Aaron, hasn't been too kind to my weight loss program or lack thereof.
Oh no way. Being inside all day. I need to take a note out of Matt's book and get my ass out into the Inaka.
Well, so we
Let's
actually
go dig some holes.
we now have a program on akiya.inaka.com where we call it Gotography.
Yeah.
And for a mere 10,000 yen in a day, you can come down to the farm and dig and plant and take pictures with Michan.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Goat photography.
Yeah, it's great.
You can
And
even
this
get
is
like a-
pro photography we're talking about, not just like, I mean, if you want me to take the pictures, then yeah, we can talk about a discount or whatever, but
Pro goat photography. Goat Pro.
Ooh, GoPro.
yeah, go to Goat Pro.
Tell me when the IPO is.
The IGO.
There's not going to be like a coin, goat coin.
Oh, no,
yeah,
I've already
yeah,
looked
yeah.
that up. There's already a goat coin.
Damn it.
Yeah, that's probably, yeah.
But I'm sure goat coin is just a shit coin, right?
Yeah.
Like
I mean,
I haven't dug into it. But it's-
Elon Musk got all big on Dogecoin.
yeah, but
I mean,
Dogecoin has like strangely enough been a thing for a while. That's like, again, strangely enough, like even the creators like, how the fuck did this happen? Right? But it now has kind of utility, right? Whereas goat coin, I mean, believe me, I've read through a lot of white papers in the crypto space. Most of them are garbage, and I'm next to certain that goat coin is just a shit coin. So you can probably take over that space easily enough. Tokenized goats.
Yeah, we could
Fractional goat ownership.
Ooh.
I own 1/16 of this goat
Of
here.
Meton.
So, Matt, back to the pandemic. With no end to the pandemic in sight, have you been doing anything with the live music scene at all, or how's that scene going? I personally, as a musician, I'm desperate to go see a live show.
Yeah, dude. There's actually a lot in the works. We're still doing the streaming stuff, and actually, we've just partnered with a kind of a larger craft brewery in Japan to basically, buy a ticket to one of our streams, and you can get a 6-pack, which is great because that means that, and they'll be kicking in. I think it's 15%, 10 or 15%. God knows Japan loves 10%, so it's probably 10%. But anyway, they'll be kicking in some proceeds from beer sales as well to do or to contribute to the venues that we've been supporting. Additionally, I mean, there's Inaka presents so many awesome nascent opportunities. Whether or not they work, right, we're still experimenting with. But right now, I've got a few low-level, very small. I'm talking like 20-person max. So yeah, I've got a few experiences out in Inaka, kind of working mostly in the Izu area, but just like low-level overnight. Honestly, not even concerts yet. Like I'm talking about those, but logistically, those are more complex than non-concert music events, aka DJ sets, and just like get on for an hour and spin some vinyl sort of thing. So at the moment, the one thing that I'm looking at is just going to these campgrounds, again, with sponsorship, and having, overnight campfire, metal DJ set, beer nights, right? I mean, it's simple, right? Keep it simple, stupid.
No, I've seen a lot of artists too do these. I forgot the name of the platform, but special live streams, and they really don't release the video on any other platform. The live stream is only available on that platform, and it's like on demand for 48 hours after. But then it goes away after that.
Is that Zyko? Because that's what we're using.
It might have been, yeah.
I mean, you can change. It can be. We tend to do 2 weeks. So basically, and in fact, like it's a little bit not frustrating, but the way in which that is even done is normally people are announcing like, oh, hey, tonight at 8. Like, in fact, we have a live stream tonight at 6 p.m. PST. So that's what, like 11 a.m. tomorrow or something. Because we want to have people viewing like North America. But even that's stupid because we're opening this thing for like 2 weeks time, which means you don't have to log in at 6 p.m. tonight. Like, just buy the ticket and you've got 2 weeks. Of course, we could make it, just 24 hours. And so you better fucking log in. Otherwise, you're going to miss it and you already paid for it. But the way that digital distribution of like music content is conducted right now is still being worked out. I mean, I myself, am running into issues quite frequently, to be honest. And so it's still just a process, right?
Right. I mean, no, on that note, on the live streaming concerts, there was a band recently that hasn't played together for like 10 years. And they most recently did a stream 2 nights ago. But as I said, you had to get the tickets and then it was on demand only like 24, 48 hours. So I missed it. But I got serious FOMO, from
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
But I think that's a good sign because I haven't felt like that at all about like online digital concerts until this group did it. Because I'm like, oh my God, I saw these guys like 10 years ago and they're finally playing again. And yeah, like.
So, I mean, that's another thing though, right? And for me anyway, and a lot of kind of, the extreme music it's called extreme for a number of reasons. One of which is, how it sounds and whatnot, but the other is like getting in the pit, right? And no matter what you do, I've said this before, but you can't recreate that. And so that also too is why these kind of very low key, very low attendance numbers, kind of Inaki events, right, are pretty promising in my head anyway. Is that granted pits probably aren't going to be happening, but at least, like communion or whatever you want to call it, will be happening. That being said, another thing that we just started experimenting with is our designer. He every year he carves woodblock prints, right? For like Nengajo, like New Year's cards. And so just this weekend, actually, we were just shooting the shit about like, okay, what else can we do? And he's got, what we found is, promoting on Reddit, promoting on Facebook, on Twitter, whichever digital platform you like, even pre-corona was kind of a crapshoot. Like, yeah, you get any number of people signing up as interested, but do they actually commit? Who knows, right? And so one thing we were playing around with was, well, hold up, we've got this like hyper-targeted, hyper-focused mailing list for these metal Nengajo. What if we started, instead of promoting online, we just had an incredibly exclusive physical mailing list, and we designed unique postcards on which you could write a URL or a QR code or something like that. And so the only people who would be able to log, in fact, the QR code would be the way to go. So that the only people who were able to even access the event or even be aware of it, right, would be the specific people on this list. Of course, from kind of a mass marketing point of view, that's blasphemy, right? Like, wait, you're only targeting 300 people and nobody else can see it? What are you doing? It's like, okay, yeah, but those 300 people, incredibly high buy-in rate.
Right. I mean, even with a Clubhouse's strategy, right? The invite only. I think when I first heard about that, I had a similar reaction. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, how are they going to grow in users? But
well, that's exactly what Facebook did way back in the day, isn't it?
Yeah. They had the same strategy. Yeah, with I think it was like only 1 or 3 universities in the beginning, but everybody wanted to get on.
Yeah, I remember. I remember my friend Phil, because I think it started at Harvard, right? And my friend Phil was at Harvard, and he was like, "Oh, dude, I got on this Facebook or the Facebook," and I was like, "Oh, what the fuck is that? Oh, god damn it, I can't get on it."
What is it? Scarcity? You have to create some level of scarcity, and then that drives up demand. I think that's it's worked for a lot of companies, and with live streaming too. I think it could actually really work because people are so desperate to see the bands they love, right?
Well, in a sense too, I'd say it's almost the opposite. I mean, it's still scarcity, right? But the scarcity that we have right now in the digital music marketplace, be it on YouTube, Spotify, whichever, is that you've got the world's longest menu to read through. Right, and even if you know, like, oh, I feel like death metal today, or I feel like hip hop tomorrow, or whatever, right? You still got, I mean, I don't even know how many, probably millions of options to choose from, right? And so when it comes down to actually selecting which of all of those options to do, it's relatively difficult. Whereas if we go, for example, the postcard route, well, shit, there's one.
Right.
Like, you're either going to do it or you're not. And you're already a proven customer of this type of content, so it would be likely anyway, or at least you'd like to think that it'd be likely that those recipients of said postcard would be, likely to buy.
What is it, like Wu-Tang Clan had that album? The one album,
yeah.
Right? And it was bought by that Pharma bro.
Yeah, but wasn't there something about Bill Murray had it, but then it got stolen?
I'm not sure. I don't know who has it now. I think the farmer bro went to jail, so.
Yeah, and that's a good thing. That guy sucks.
Yeah.
What's his name? Skrillex?
Something like that.
Ouch. Speaking of Skrillex, well, not Skrillex specifically, but
That's a good one.
talking about what's going on in music and how things are changing, I can only think about the very recent breakup of electronic duo Daft Punk.
That was like yesterday?
Yeah, who just announced on Monday that they are breaking up after career spanning decades since 1993.
Yeah, and I mean, do you know the reasons why they decided to split up?
They're infamously secretive, so they published a cryptic video, and that's about it.
They're also infamously awesome at putting on live concerts. And so I mean, I'd be putting words in their mouth, but it wouldn't surprise me if there was a big reason for them. Because I mean, basically they only played festivals, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Where you're going. So as soon as I heard about this, I started speculating too, like, why the hell is it happening now? The last official release was 2013, and the last time they toured was 2007. So
whoa, what?
Yeah, with their world tour, they played
like toured but not played festivals. Or have they not been playing festivals since 2007?
No, I'm pretty sure 2007, because that's the live album that came out.
Alive 2007.
Yeah.
I went to their.
You saw it.
I went to Alive 2007 live in Japan at Makuhari Messe, and it was the coolest shit ever. Oh my god.
We all know. I've seen videos of the Alive tour, and oh my god, I have that CD too. It's incredible. But Matt, to your point, I imagine it's been like 8 years since they've released an album, 15 years since they've actually done a world tour. They might have been anticipating, okay, 2020, let's do a new album. Let's actually play out live again. But Daft Punk is really smart. They're really deep into the industry. They probably don't really see a future anytime soon where they can do that.
And I mean, that's the thing that I'm immensely interested in right now. Going back to like these 20-person camp things, right? The whole thing that I've always done in the underground, almost by necessity though, is you're working with usually max cap 250 person venues, right? Those are tiny. The amount of risk associated with that is I mean, it's not much. It's like $2,000-$3,000, something like that, right? Whereas if you're Fuji Rock or your Daft Punk or your, hell, even like Maryland Death Fest, right? Those huge festivals that attract at least thousands, if not tens, if not hundreds of thousands of people. Burning Man, right? Yeah. All of these gargantuan things that require years of development and planning, millions of dollars of investment, multiple parties and, stakeholders and stuff. Yeah, are they cool? You better fucking believe they are. Are they also immensely difficult to pull off and kind of miraculous in that sense? Yeah, that's both a good and a bad thing. It's good because it proves, holy shit, we're humans. We can get some really big shit together. That's rad. It's bad because, I mean, look at Fyre Fest, right? When that shit hits the fan, it just crumbles.
Right.
And so there's no resilience. There's no preparedness baked in at all to the festival model. And I'd say that number probably starts at about 4,000 and up, right? Whereas with, again, the 20-person campfire DJ metal night sort of thing that I'm talking about, or the 80-person concert that I was putting on for the last decade, not very much risk, super collapsible if you want to, super repeatable all over the place, right? Of course, it's not a whale, but that's the problem with the festival circuit and the festival model is that you're looking at, 10 whales year round. Mm-hmm. And if those go to shit, then they really go to shit. Whereas if you've brought smaller stuff up to scale and could just kind of say, okay, now we're going to do that over there, boom, 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 boom. Okay, that one's not working, take it off, move it over here, do that, whatever. You're not looking at a lot of risk.
Yeah,
so really what you've got tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people focused, centralized, right, in one spot. And if it works, great. If it doesn't, uh-oh. Whereas if you have the same number of people, but just dispersed in kind of a network or a cell structure or whatever you want to call it, that suddenly becomes much, much more resilient.
Absolutely. And, on this topic, I've done Lollapalooza, Bonnaroo when I was back in the States. I went every year to both of those. I much rather prefer an intimate show, seeing a band I love where I can drive, 30 minutes and instantly enter the venue, as opposed to, driving up to Chicago for 2 days and then, having to like basically hike to see the band in some random area. I went to, here in Japan too, Summer Sonic, And I think we walked like 3 hours to get to the Radiohead stage. Yeah. So, you know what would be really cool is if one of these big festivals, like, organize things on the local level. Like they had
I would welcome that.
That'd be awesome, man. And then at Summer Sonic in Japan, there's a huge amount of people that come from Korea and China and Hong Kong because Radiohead plays in Japan. They don't play in Seoul yet, right? So everyone's got, I had to Shinkansen down to Osaka, but other people were like having to fly, multiple flights just to get to the city.
Yep.
Yeah,
that'll happen, right? Which is, that's the bread and butter of the festival circuit, though, is they're not talking about the local audience, right? They're talking about international, or at least national audiences, right? If not more than that. And again, that's cool if and when it works. But the fact is, when those systems fail, as they have during coronavirus, right, you're fucked.
Yeah,
you can't repeat it.
Yep,
right.
Yep.
Whereas if you have this kind of, again, decentralized or dispersed or whatever the hell you want to call it, that kind of structure on a local scale, right, that works very, very well. That being said, I do want to mention one of my favorite festival experiences, and it wasn't one, it was 3. So I flew over to the States, I think it was 2015, to go to Maryland Death Fest. And that's
Sounds pretty hardcore.
Maryland. It's pretty damn good. And so that's a 5-day affair. And then almost immediately after that, there was the Decibel Beer and Metal Festival, which was in Philadelphia, right? And that was, I think, 3 days. And then from there, I flew back to Tokyo. And on that day that I landed at Earthdom, my favorite spot, my favorite venue in all of Tokyo, if not the world, a really excellent band, fittingly enough, called Earthless, not Earthdom. They were playing at Earthdom, but Earthless, which is like super psychedelic, like freak out rock and roll, we're playing a sold out show at Earthdom. But because I've booked there so much and know the owner and everything like that, I distinctly remember just like booking it home from my place to my place from Narita, throwing my luggage into my apartment, running over to Earthdom, running downstairs and being like, hey, it's me. Can I get in? I know it's sold out. And they're like, yeah, it's cool. It's you. Get on in there. And so for the course of like a week and a half, I was just like jet setting around to underground music stuff.
Oh, wow.
That sounds so much fun, and even
it was exhausting.
And it's really, the FOMO is even higher because we just can't do that right now.
Right. Well, but I mean, that's the thing too, is, if and when that specific model becomes possible again, awesome, let's get it done. But the fact is it doesn't work right now. And what are we going to do? Are we going to sit around on our asses waiting for that to happen? Or are we going to say, okay, if and when that can happen, cool. But in the meantime, let's develop new models that can actually work with what we've got. Right. And is it 100,000 people? No, but is it 100 cool people? And we're all like tested and PCR'd and, all of that stuff in a safe outdoor environment that isn't in a city center? If so, fuck yeah, that sounds like a cool idea to me.
I love it. I hope that we see more development in this area. And I would love to help out if there's anything going on here.
Yeah, dude. Let's talk.
All right. Well, in closing, is there any shout outs that you'd like to make?
Yeah, a few, actually. So there's an excellent wild game meat store in Atami that if you order over 10,000 yen of either wild boar or deer from, you get free frozen shipping. It's called Yamano Megumi, and it's really good. I actually carted a bunch of meat up from there today. Yeah, I think that's about it.
All right, Yamano Megumi in Atami. Go and get your wild boar. Oink, oink. That was good. More of a snort. Yeah.
Hey, listeners, that's right. You listener right there.
Who do you think should be our next guest on Tokyo Wave? Let us know. Drop us a line at wave@tokyowave.jp.
We hope you enjoyed Tokyo Wave.
If you haven't already, you can subscribe to Tokyo Wave on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, and YouTube.
Join us again next week on Tokyo Wave.